Hello, everybody, and welcome to Decoding the WSL, the podcast dedicated to the stats and facts in the WSL. Today, we're looking ahead to game week 8, previewing the 6 games coming up this weekend. I am your host, Sam Biccarino, and once again, we've got the full team here today. I'm joined by Izzy, I'm joined by Tom, and I'm joined by Jacob. And yeah, let's get straight into it because there are, I think, some quite close games coming up this weekend that I don't really know how they're going to go. The first one, let's start with, well, what I think is probably the biggest game of the weekend. It might be a little bit different depending on your viewpoint, but Arsenal against Chelsea, this one's Saturday midday at the Emirates. And Tom, this is a game that is going to be probably not as important as I thought it would be at the start of the season, but will still be incredibly important for both teams.
Yeah, it's certainly more important for one of these teams, I think. But I mean, this game is, whatever the context, it's always such a huge game in the WSL calendar when these two come together. So, kind of historically, Arsenal have a good record against Chelsea at the Emirates. They've had much more of their success, obviously, at the Emirates against Chelsea than when they're on the road. I think it's going to be a really interesting one. It is really important that Arsenal win this game. I think if they're still have any hope of still being in the title race. I think if they lose this game, then I think it puts them out of the title race. I just think if you're going to be, would that be 8 or 9 points behind the leaders if they lost?
Good question. I think it's 6 points off the top of my head. It's 6 points at the moment. I've got it open. So 5 points at the moment. So it would be 8.
And I think for a team that did only drop 5 or 6 points last year in the league, I think that would be too much. So it's really important for Arsenal, and maybe Chelsea can come into it. I feel like they'll come into it with a back 5 as well. I kind of feel like that's the way that Von Pastor wants to play these bigger games. And obviously they have that win at the Emirates last season as well, which was a huge win. Yeah, I'm going to be in the press box for this one. I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be. I'm just looking forward to seeing René Slegers and Tonio Bonpastor come up against each other again, because I thought that was one of the most interesting tactical battles last season. It was really, really close. And obviously, they only played each other once, so I think it's going to be really interesting. And Arsenal would be hoping to draw on that good performance last weekend against Leicester and draw on kind of the performances they've been able to produce at the Emirates. Like those nights, like Real Madrid last year. But all those victories, those by 4 goals last year. But yeah, I think it's going to be a tall order for them. And I think Chelsea are going to come there knowing that probably a draw would be a good result for them. It wouldn't be a disaster for them to get a draw, but it wouldn't be good enough for Arsenal. And I think there's a little bit of power in that you can plan your game around that, in the fact that knowing that Arsenal are going to have to maybe push themselves a little bit further, maybe do things they don't want to do necessarily, as far as leaving themselves open at the back. And Chelsea are very good at exploiting those kind of situational moments.
Yeah, and Tom, you've done enough of these preview shows to know you need to give us a scoreline. Come on.
Oh, I almost got away with that, I think.
Yeah, you're not getting away with it.
I think it's really hard, this one, actually. Because I do have a feeling that Arsenal play better. But they do have a lot of injuries, so it might be kind of dependent on injuries. But I think I'm going to go 1-1 in this game, with Arsenal having a good game but not being able to get it over the line.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way of looking at it. I think this being at home for Arsenal is a kind of not a lifeline as such, but I think that means that Arsenal are in with a shout of actually taking something from this game. I wouldn't be surprised to see Arsenal get some points from this game, maybe points plural. It could be a win. This could be against the Chelsea side that we've already spoken about in the review show, that they're not as good as they were last season, in my opinion. I think in quite a lot of people's opinion, they're a lot more ready to be got at. They're just sort of grinding out the results, and that's not something that you can keep up all the time. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Arsenal take something from this game, but I think chances are it probably will be a Chelsea win still, but I think it's going to be really tight. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 Chelsea win. But don't be surprised if Arsenal take the lead. I'll come to Jacob last on this one. I'll get all the Arsenal fans out of the way first. Go on, Izzy.
I'm speaking it into existence, so I'm going to go 2-1 to Arsenal.
I like that. I'm hoping you're right, Jacob.
Yeah, I think we've all predicted it to be quite a close game, and I agree. Tom alluded to the fact that Sonia Bonpastor and Renee Slegers had only faced each other once last season, and actually Renee wasn't in charge when Arsenal played Chelsea last at home in the WSL. It was 2-1 Chelsea on match day 4 last season, and it was actually Jonas Eindval's last game managing Arsenal in the WSL. I think Arsenal will take confidence from the fact that they were won quite comfortably against Leicester. We saw Arsenal score 4-5 quite a lot last year, whereas this season that's been kind of less of a theme. So I think the fact that they kind of got back to winning ways and comfortably is a positive. But look, Chelsea have been really strong this season, unbeaten, only conceding 3 goals. They've got such a strong defence with 4 clean sheets. I'm going for a 1-goal margin, but I'm going 1-0 Chelsea. I think it will be close, but I just think Arsenal haven't looked Chelsea haven't looked too convincing either in some of their games. I think they've been actually overperforming quite a lot of their statistics. But yeah, I'll go 1-0 Chelsea.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I think the other game that's on Saturday, Man United against Aston Villa, is probably not going to be quite as close. It's definitely not going to be, for me, not going to be one that can go both ways. I think this is a comfortable Man United win, and not to spoil some of the aerial fantasy bits that we're going to speak about later, but Man United are, I think, the team most likely to come away with a win this weekend, and therefore I am going to be having 3 Man United players in my team this week. It's kind of difficult in terms of what the score is going to be, because Villa are, I mean, we saw them score 3 last weekend. Yes, it's against Everton, and one of them was an own goal and things, but they weren't with Rachel Daly or Ebony Salmon, who have both been quite threatening this season going forward. So they've got a decent amount of depth to be able to do stuff. And I wouldn't be surprised if Villa do score, but I just think Man United are going to score more. Their attacking prowess this season, you think of how Ella Toon's been playing, she's got the most assists in the league. They got Melvin Mallard, who, I mean, she didn't even, I don't think she started last weekend. I can't actually remember. But Turner was certainly the one that was hitting the headlines with the goals. And Jess Park has been lighting up, and she's got the most goal involvements. And they've just got such quality, and it's all sort of clicking at the moment for Man United. So I think it's going to be a relatively comfortable win. And I'm going to go 3-1, but to be honest, it could well be more. Izzy, I'll come to you first on this one. Are you in the same boat as me?
Yeah, sort of. I agree that I think United are going to get a few, but I am banking on Villa to get a few back. I think they, like I said on the last pod, are growing really well as a team, and I don't know, I have a feeling about this one, so I'm going to go 3-2.
3-2, yeah, I like that. That would be certainly a more entertaining one than mine by an extra goal. Tom?
Yeah, I think I'd potentially have a little bit more faith in Villa to cause United problems than yourself, Sam. I think just obviously the 2 teams at the top they faced this year, they've done really well against. They probably should have got more than they got against Chelsea, and then they obviously stifled Arsenal and ended up getting a point at the Emirates, which is no mean feat. So I think they could cause United problems, but having said that, I do think United are going to have enough to get over the line. But Kirsty Hansen against her old club, we love these storylines, don't we? I think I'd probably go 2-1 Man United.
So still quite close, and still both teams scoring as well. Jacob, are you making it a sort of full house of both teams scoring in this game?
I am. I'll second what Tom said. I was going to make the exact same points. I think, I think it will be quite closely contested. So I've gone 2-1 United as well. I think Villa's start to the season has been interesting because they've drawn 4 games, won 1 and lost 1. Their only defeat of the season has been to Chelsea. It's very uncommon seeing a team draw so many games. But look, their away form's been good. They've played 3 away games. They've drawn 2 and won 1, so they're unbeaten away. But obviously, United are very strong. So despite what I've just said, I do think United will win 2-1. I think just they've been very good this season, both in defence and attack. And yeah, we spoke on the review pod about kind of the brilliance of Jess Park this season. I kind of see that continuing into the Villa game.
Yeah, I think it does say something about Aston Villa as well that none of us have given Man United a clean sheet in this one when they've only conceded 5 goals from their opening 7 games, and I think they've kept 3 clean sheets so far. And yeah, we're all saying at home against a team that are, I think Villa are in the bottom half at the moment. We don't think they're going to keep a clean sheet. It certainly says something about how well Villa are doing going forward. Let's move on to Sunday, on to one of the games that I think may well be the hardest to call this weekend, and I think could actually be the closest. It's London City Lionesses at home against Spurs. And I say that because I know Spurs have almost turned the conversation into it being a top 5 this season rather than like a traditional top 4, because under Martin Ho, they're doing so much better. I don't think they're going to be in that top 4 at the end of the season, but for the performances they put in so far, they're certainly good value for being up there at the moment. But Izzy, let's come to you first on this one, because London City Lionesses have been looking, I think, quite strong in parts, especially going forward, but not necessarily at the back. And then Spurs are kind of just grinding out quite close wins.
Yeah, it is a weird one, but I think I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw, just because I think that London City, I to be honest, I was quite impressed with them against Chelsea, and I think, although their points maybe aren't, where they are in the table is not, a great indicator of sort of how they've been playing. We know they're a new team with lots of new players, and they're still sort of gelling, and I think they are finding their feet a bit. Spurs, like we've said, are on a great run. They've got great attacking talent, and their defensive line is so much stronger this season. So I do think, sorry, Jacob, at some point Spurs' magic is going to come to an end. Although I don't actually think that's a bad thing, because I think obviously it's the dips that kind of push teams further in this league, and for them to like keep going on as they are and sort of not kind of face up to any super difficult challenges would be bad for them in the long run. But I do think that these are 2 very evenly matched teams for 2 very different reasons. So yeah, I think it is going to be a draw, and I'm hoping for 4 goals.
4 goals in a draw is a bold prediction. If you get it bang on, fair enough. Jacob, again, I'm going to come to you last on this one because I'll let you sort of go out on a high talking about Spurs. Tom, let's come to you next.
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting one. There's actually so many really too close to call games this weekend, I feel. I mean, yeah, this is certainly one of them, like you said. I think Jacob mentioned it on the review pod that Spurs had only lost to top 4 teams and won every other game. And it's so funny because that's exactly what London City Lionesses have done. They've won against every game they've played that's not against the top 4 side, and they've lost all the top 4 sides. Obviously, they've played against more top 4 sides and lost against more top 4 sides. I was impressed with them on Saturday. I think they were unlucky to come away definitely without scoring. I think Isabel Goodwin should have scored, could have even scored 2. She missed 2 big chances. And I think that's something that they have to remedy. But even you can see that progress from the fact that I think at the start of the season, when you looked at them playing Arsenal and Man United, and they kind of got blown away, and Isabel Goodwin didn't really have any kind of sight at goal. for her to then be a bit later on in the season, even if she's not scoring against Chelsea, she's still getting those big chances, getting into those positions. So I think that's positive. I think they've also developed quite a good defensive record at home as well, as far as I think, because they won against Liverpool 1-0, they won against West Ham 1-0. So, a couple of clean sheets, and they're kind of just, I think Wassa Sangare has been doing really well at the back. I thought she was really, really good against Chelsea, even in defeat. So, yeah, I think this is a really tricky one. And obviously, I'm going to leave most of the Tottenham talk to Jacob because he knows a lot more about them than me. But I've obviously been really impressed with Tottenham too. So this one is tough to call. I think I'm going to go 1-0 London City Lionesses, just because I've been quite impressed by Jocelyn Pressure, especially them at home as well. I know that we're going back into last season, but their record at home under pressure is really good. And yeah, I think they might just have enough in this game, but I really wouldn't be surprised if it went the exact opposite way with this one, to be honest.
I think it's really hard because it's London City Lionesses, like you say, are actually quite strong at home. They had a really good home record last season. They were pretty terrible on the road, especially for a side that high up the table. It was really their home form that solidified them. But Spurs are also, they just seem to score in every game they play. So even if they don't win the game, they do at least get on the score sheet. Think like the Man City game. I know it was 1-0 against Chelsea, but I think Spurs are going to get on the score sheet, but I also don't think that. I don't know if London City Lionesses necessarily have enough to get ahead of Spurs, so I'm going to sit on the fence a little bit as well and go for a 1-1. But yeah, it's one of those. It's a horrible game week, especially for someone like fantasy. Because other than the Manchester clubs, I don't really know who to back. So many of the games could go one way or the other, and this is definitely one of them. But yeah, I'll go for 1-1. London City Lionesses score first, and then probably, because that's what normally happens, Beth England to get a goal in the second half. Jacob, off you go.
I feel like both Sam and Tom have read my notes because I literally wrote three. I wrote three things in my notes that would influence what points I was going to make. The first thing is I said it's one of the hardest games to call of the weekend, which is what Sam said at the beginning. I then was going to make a point around the similar starts and how both teams have lost to only top four sides, and then my prediction was a 1-1 draw. So I feel like all my points have been said, to be honest. But no, I think this will be a tightly contested game. I think this almost proves as the perfect test for both teams because they've proven that they can beat the kind of almost the lower side. And for Spurs, I think the games that will prove to be most important now we're kind of in a good position will be almost those away games against teams like London City Lionesses, like maybe Villa and Brighton, who kind of could finish as in the upper middle bit of part of the table. So I think it will be an important game. But yeah, I've gone for a 1-1 draw as well. I think that's probably fair given the state of both teams. And from a fantasy perspective, but also just because I'm interested, I love looking at the fixture runs for teams. And I've looked, because London City Lionesses have now played all of the top four teams, I've now had a look at their fixtures and they've got a really favourable fixture run from this weekend, match day 8, until match day 15, which goes into February. They only play one of the top four teams. So in terms of kind of making I'm trying to think what I'm trying to say, in terms of embedding themselves into the league a bit and kind of almost settling their place as fifth or sixth as best of the rest. I think there's a real opportunity for London City Lionesses to gain some momentum in the next couple of months. And I think if they can kind of get into that middle pack come the end of the season, I think they'll take that as success, competing in the middle of the table in your first season after being promoted. I think that's kind of what they'd be looking for. So yeah, from a fantasy perspective, keep an eye on some London City Lionesses players. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I've definitely picked up on that as well because I've got two in my team, Sangare and Aslani, because I think they're quite good value as well for what they do. And yeah, like you say, a favourable run. It was only really that game against Chelsea last week, which I put them both on the bench for. Although I accidentally forgot to take Hannah Hampton off my bench, but never mind. Lisa Kopp got me a whole 2 points instead. Let's move on to another game which I think is really hard to call. Liverpool hosting Brighton. Liverpool actually did the double over Brighton last season. They won both games 2-1, and they haven't lost to Brighton at home in any competition since before lockdown. So it's been quite a while. However, unfortunately for Liverpool, they're not very good at football at the moment. So that's not really going in their favour. So I'm going to lean towards Brighton on this one. I think Liverpool's performances are better than 0 points so far this season. I think they deserve it better, but I still think Brighton are probably going to have too much for them. It's not going to be a thrashing. Again, it's probably going to be... I'm going to go for Brighton to win by 1 goal, but I wouldn't be surprised if it goes the other way. So both games last season finished 2-1, and I'm going to go 2-1 in this one as well, but a Brighton win. And yeah, there's maybe another one where I'm going to get proved wrong, but we'll wait and see. Tom, I'll come to you first on this one. Liverpool-Brighton, how do you see it going?
Yeah, this one's the clearest one for me, I think, of the weekend. I'll be pretty confident that Brighton will get a result here. I think that they'll end that streak, and I'd probably say 2-0. So, yeah, Liverpool fans, you can take that one to the bank. First win of the season sorted. But yeah, I do think Brighton will have too much for them.
That is bold, and I appreciate it, because then we're not just all saying the same thing all the time, which... yeah, it's nice that we've got different views, even if I do believe that you are wrong. Izzy, we'll come on to you next.
I'm going to be positive for change, and I think that, well, I don't know if you'd call 1-1 positive, but maybe from Liverpool's perspective it is. I do think Brighton aren't always as good as away as they are at home. Obviously, they've been hit with the Adjumang injury, and Olsen's just come off scoring in the last game against Tottenham. So I'm hoping they can kind of channel a bit of that energy. And like you say, Sam, they have been improving. The points just don't reflect it. So yeah, I think this one could be low scoring, but I will go 1-1 just because I almost want to have faith that Liverpool can get a point out of something, just for their own sake, because I just feel really sorry for them at this point.
Yeah, there is a bit of me that does want Liverpool to do well, because I think they've got quite a lot of good players, and obviously I know Adjumang's out, but they've had injury worries of their own. Obviously Enderby now, and we've had Marie Herbinger as well out with an ACL, and they've obviously had issues with the goalkeeper, and it just seems to be, obviously Matt Beard as well is a major thing that's not easy to get over. So it would be nice from a sort of neutral point of view for Liverpool to get something, but yeah, whether this game is the one or not, we'll wait and see. Jacob, which side of the fence are you falling on?
I have predicted the same as you, Sam. I've gone 2-1 Brighton. I think for Liverpool, it's a big game because obviously they've had a disappointing start to the season, not picking up any points. But immediately after that Brighton game, they played Chelsea and Arsenal. So if they don't get points on the board at this one, they could be staring down the barrel of potentially 9 games without a win following those Chelsea and Arsenal games. For Brighton, although it hasn't been the best of starts from Brighton to the season, they've lost 4 games out of their 7. They have lost 3 of their 4 games against top 4 sides. All of their losses have been 1 goal margin. So in all their losses, they have competed and it's been close. Obviously, it's disappointing and sad to see Michelle Adjumang's injury. But I'm interested to see that kind of link up between Carla Camacho and Kiko Saika. Camacho more as a kind of 9 and Kiko Saika maybe playing behind as a 10. I was quite impressed by Kiko Saika in the Brighton game against United. She looked very bright. She obviously scored a goal and hit the woodwork as well. And I think both her and Frank Kirby can be key for Brighton going forward. Yeah, I've gone 2-1 to Brighton. I think yeah, it's an important game for Liverpool, but I think Brighton will have the better of them.
Fair enough. Another game that is on at midday on Sunday as well is West Ham against Leicester, which another one that's really difficult to pick for me because I think Leicester are probably doing about as most people would expect. 5 points from 7 games sounds about right. West Ham probably worse than people would expect. Bottom of the league, 7 losses from 7 games. Izzy, I'll come to you first on this one. Where do you think this one's going to go? Because I think this is going to be another one that
This
is
is
very
actually
close
so
and really hard to
hard
call.
for me to call. Like, I really can't. I think it is literally just who shows up on the day, and I think Leicester completely have it in them to win 3-1, especially as the way like Naomi Mouchon, we saw sort of sparks of her against Arsenal. On a good day as well, Leicester, you know, their midfield is quite strong. They have some really experienced and good players in there. Equally, West Ham have sort of been improving, and I think holding City to a 1-0 is kind of evidence of that. But again, other than maybe Aseye, I'm not seeing a lot of attacking threat. So I really want this to be a West Ham win, but I actually think I'm going to say 2-1 Leicester, because the snippets I've seen when Leicester are playing well have been really good. And I think obviously this is a team that West Ham have no points. So they will come into this game knowing that this is someone Leicester could take 3 points from. And I think, you know, with the sort of fire in that engine, they could well win that. So I will give West Ham some grace and give them a goal, but I do think this will be a Leicester win.
Yeah, I think that I'm probably going to go kind of similar to what you're saying, but I want to hear Tom's opinion first.
I think this is a really interesting one. This was the game that kind of turned around West Ham season last year when they welcomed Leicester at home. They hadn't won a game yet in the season. Obviously, it wasn't as bad as how things are going now, but it was a 1-0 win, and things really did improve for them after that. I think a really interesting dynamic of this is obviously that last season Rick Passmore would have been in the West Ham dugout for that game as assistant manager with Rhian Skinner. So that's another really interesting dynamic at play here, like how much he's going to know about Skinner and the way the team works. And then obviously Skinner knows a lot about him too. So it'd be really interesting to see how this plays out from a tactical perspective. I still, if you're looking at West Ham's season, it's been really disappointing, but they had their best home record ever last season in the WSL, and they got the exact same amount of points from the games they played at home in the last season as they have so far. That was their only 3 losses at home last season, were those 3 games. And I do see them turning things around, and I think that Sunday would be a good place to start. It's just, I'm going to back West Ham to win this one. I think they will win 1-0 again. But I think they need some luck as well. They need the ball to go in off the back of somebody's thigh or something like that. You know, just a little bit of luck, and just have a little, you know, that Noemi Mouchon, when she rounds the keeper, she hits the post instead of finding the back of the net. They just need that little bit of something to get them believing again. But yeah, I do think it could go either way. But I think West Ham will win. I think West Ham are going to win 1-0.
I think that, I'm so torn. And this was one that I hadn't actually sort of made a decision on which way I was going to go. So that's why I'm kind of listening to what everyone else is saying as well. And sort of, can anyone convince me one way or the other? But you've both made very compelling arguments for the opposite things. So I'll wait and see what Jacob says as well.
I'm going to go bang in the middle, sit on the fence a bit, and I'm going to go for a draw, which means, Sam, you've got the deciding vote.
Jacob, that's so unhelpful.
Jacob was going to say 4-0 before you said that little spiel, and now
No, I think the reason that I think it's going to be a draw is I think both teams have struggled this season for creativity. Leicester actually got the lowest XG in the league. West Ham are the lowest scorers in the league, only scoring 2 goals. You feel like something's got to give, but I just feel like it just might not, and it might end up just being a 1-1 draw. I think Leicester picked up a couple of good results. They got an early win against Liverpool. They've got recent draws against Everton and Villa. And yeah, getting the draws for Leicester against Everton and Villa were good results, but again, they just created so little. I think they haven't created over 1 XG in any of their games this season, which is problematic. But I think, I kind of see West Ham getting a point here. If it was like any other week or any other season, I would probably predict a West Ham win. But they've just looked really unconvincing so far this season. So I can't put myself to give West Ham a win.
Yeah, I think I'm actually going to lean more towards Leicester. I think that there's a bit more variety in Leicester's games in that they have had the ability to score, not loads, but they have had the ability to score in games. We see they even did it against Arsenal. Whereas West Ham, they haven't really had the ability to score. They also scored against Arsenal, but it was that Daphne Van Domselaar sort of palmed it into her own goal. Not quite sure how it actually happened. And their only other goal of the season was a penalty. So they're not free scoring. They didn't even get a shot on target in the second half this week, as I think it was Tom that mentioned it on the review pod. So I don't see West Ham, even against a team like Leicester that are lower down in the league, I don't actually see West Ham realistically scoring. I think, well, not realistically, but I think chances are they probably won't score. I don't think they're going to get a lot of XG. But I do think Leicester can keep teams out quite well. They got a clean sheet against away at Villa. They only conceded 2 to Spurs. They only conceded 1 to Chelsea, and they kept a clean sheet against Liverpool earlier in the season as well. So I think Leicester could actually come out of this with a clean sheet, and I'm going to go 1-0 to Leicester, and probably someone like Naomi Mouchon getting the goal, which is a bit different to last season because I don't know if I predicted Leicester to win any games last season, but they're my sort of most local WSL team, so I like to see them do well. Let's move on to the final game of the weekend. This one, amazingly, is not at midday or at 11:55, which is basically midday. But this one's 2:30 on Sunday afternoon. Everton hosting Manchester City. And after going through a few games where we're really struggling to pick out who's going to win, I'll go first on this one because I actually have an opinion ready to go, which is that I think Man City are going to comfortably win this one. I don't think it's going to be a thrashing. I'm not expecting this to be a 5-0, but I could see this being like a 2-0 or a 3-1. Let's go 3-1. Although Man City, no, let's go 2-0 actually, because I don't think Man City are as free scoring as I would expect them to be normally. I was actually really kind of thankful that I was a bit of an idiot last week because I was planning to triple captain Bunny Shaw and just forgot, which went really well. I was thinking, I saw it a few weeks ago. I was like, Man City are at home against West Ham, who are shipping goals. And Bunny Shaw is, I think, probably the best striker in the league, if not potentially the best striker in the world. And it's just an easy, well, that's going to be my triple captain this season. And I forgot to do it, which worked out really well because she didn't score or assist in the game. But yeah, I'm going to go for Man City winning this one. I do think that Everton's struggling a lot. And although they are scoring some goals, I think against a team like Man City, who are also a bit like London City Lionesses, they're not to the same extent, but they are finding their feet a bit this season. I think they are starting to gel a bit more, especially at the back. And I think that a team like Everton should be one that they are looking to score multiple goals against. So I'm going to go 2-0 to Man City. I'll mix it up now. Let's go Jacob first.
I think it's going to be a bit closer. So I've gone 2-1 City. The reason that I've said that is the past 2 weeks, City have played both Liverpool and West Ham. And on my preview, I expected there to be kind of big score lines, kind of 3-4 nils. But both of those games were very close. City won by 1 goal in each of those games against Liverpool and West Ham. So they're a bit more narrow than I thought. So I've gone for another 1 goal margin for City. Now that I've said that, they'll probably go and win by 3 or 4 or whatever, knowing my luck. But Everton have lost all 3 home games that they've had this season. I think I spoke about it a couple of weeks ago on one of the pods. That's quite a worrying statistic. You obviously want, especially kind of having their games now at Goodison, you want it to start becoming a bit of a fortress, or at least picking up some good results. So I'm predicting 2-1 City and a 4th Everton home loss of the season, sadly.
Yeah, Everton not flying as high as I think many people, including myself, thought they might be. But maybe a home fixture against Man City is not the time to turn your fortunes around. Tom, you look like you're ready to go.
I'm always ready to go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I agree with Jacob. I think with Everton, obviously this fixture last season was a big shock, and Everton beat Man City 2-1, and that was kind of the moment that City's season kind of started to unravel a little bit. Obviously, they had a huge amount more injuries then, so that played a big part in the fact that Everton were able to get that win. But they did go unbeaten against City last season, a win and a draw away from home. So they've obviously, can take confidence from that. I think maybe it'll help them in an odd way to have Man City come to Goodison. Just in the other games against Tottenham and London City Lionesses, I'm going to avoid the United one just because it was at Hill Dickinson Stadium. It was a bit of like, they're kind of expected to be on the front foot to go and win the game. And this was kind of quite early in the season with Tottenham, when Tottenham hadn't quite got the momentum they have now. And against City, it's a bit different. Like, it's more like, you can get behind them as underdogs. And, they did do really well for 60 minutes against United, 1-0 up for that whole time. And obviously they couldn't continue until the end, but they showed promise. And they showed heart on the weekend as well to stay in it against Villa and end up getting the draw. I just feel like I'm not sure if Emily Ramsey's the keeper who's going to get you a point against City, though, is my only concern not my only concern, but one of the reasons that I probably think that they're not going to be able to get a point here. But I really want to predict a 1-1 because I think they have it in them to get a point. But I'm not so sure it's quite working at the back for Everton with their goalkeeper situation right now. So I'm gonna go 2-1 to City. But I hadn't decided that before I started speaking, I gotta say.
Tom, me and you both. I think every single game this weekend, because I normally write them all down, and I've had a busy day and I didn't get time, and I've started speaking before I've actually decided what I'm going to say on every single fixture. As you can probably tell with that one when I changed it halfway through. Finally, Izzy, how do you see this game going?
Yeah, I think this will be a comfortable City win. The only thing that I'm kind of back and forthing about is like how comfortable it's going to be, because obviously it was a 1-0 against West Ham. Wasn't super convinced. Like they should have had more goals, City. So whether they can be sort of more clinical in front of goal, I guess, is the question, especially, if they can. And like Tom's saying, with Everton's keeper situation, it could potentially be quite high scoring for City. But on the other hand, yeah, I think Everton will take something away from this game, just not points wise, perhaps. So I think I'm going to go 3-1 to City, but I could see it being 2-1. Like, I can see Everton putting up a fight. I just don't think it's going to be enough at this time to hold off City when they're on a decent run and when Everton are still a bit shaky at the back.
Yeah, well, I think we are sort of very much in favour of, well, not in favour, but expecting a Man City win overall. Let's move on to aerial fantasy because they are all 6 games predicted now. And looking ahead to our sort of top picks for game week 8, I'll start because I've already given a little bit of an idea, which is basically that I'm going to be having a lot of Man United players in my team this week. I've already got Anna Sandberg and Miyazawa in. So I don't really see the need to take either of those out, especially because I've got other players that I want to remove instead. So I think this week I'm going to be probably taking Chastity Grant out away at Man United. I think that's going to be very difficult. And then I think I might also take Katie Reid out because with Leah Kadina coming in this week, I don't know if that's going to be a permanent thing. I don't know if Reid is going to keep getting more pitch time or not because we know at Arsenal they tend to work in like chunks. So maybe like between each international break, they tend to see it as like a block and how they're going to sort of work in that block and the style of playing. Renee's spoken about that in press conferences before. So it might be that Katie Reid got the chance in the last block. Kadina gets the chance in this block. That might be the case. I don't want to risk it. So I'm going to take Katie Reid out alongside Chastity Grant. And I think I'm going to put Jess Park in the midfield as my extra Man United player. And then I'm probably going to put Jade Rose in because although I wouldn't be surprised to see Everton score, I do think Man City are probably one of the teams more likely to keep a clean sheet this week. And Jade Rose is still super cheap and super like good value. I'd also make sure I've got Bunny Shaw and Casper in. They're both in my team already and will both be straight on to start. And I think Bunny Shaw is going to be wearing the armband again, hopefully a bit better than last week. I did point out, though, I think visionary pick-wise, because I think the players that I've already spoken about are quite high in the team selected by. I think a lot of people have those. They're not sort of groundbreaking decisions, but I think Leicester defenders might actually be quite a good one this week because West Ham's goal scoring is not great, and Leicester have already kept a couple of clean sheets this season. I wouldn't be surprised to do it again. So someone like Julie Thibault or Asmita Al are both visionaries at the moment and might be good picks. Another one to keep an eye on might be Taylor Hines as well, because Emily Fox didn't start this game. She picked up a bit of a knock on international duty, and although she played, I think, about half an hour in this one, or the one that was on at the weekend, I don't know if she's going to start this weekend coming, so it might be one to keep an eye on in the press conferences because Taylor Hines is a visionary at the moment and might be quite good value as an Arsenal defender. There's not many Arsenal players that are visionaries, so she might be a good one. Izzy, I'm going to come to you last on this one as obviously the aerial fantasy expert. Tom, I'll come to you first. Is there anyone in particular, maybe someone that I've not mentioned yet, that you're going to be going for in this weekend?
Yeah, I've already made my transfers just because I couldn't afford a price rise to do it. So I brought in Jess Park and Fran Kirby. I obviously like that fixture with Liverpool for Brighton. And then Jess Park just seems to be performing against everyone. And she's just a fun player to have. And sometimes we forget that aerial fantasy is about having fun. Like, when you've got a player in your team that's giving you joy, why not? Why not? I think maybe on a little bit of a different tone to you, Sam, I'd be thinking about Vivian Asai as a visionary pick this week. She's on penalties for West Ham. I wouldn't be surprised they got a penalty. And, for somebody who got 15 or 16, the joint most goals and assist goal involvements last year, I think for a visionary pick, that's really an exciting place to be. And they've got 2 kind of home games, like Jacob mentioned in the last pod, more winnable than the last few. I think she has obviously been underperforming her XG, but she's also getting into those positions. And I do think with a player of her quality, that will even out over the course of the year. So, and there's a lot of exciting visionaries because we've also spoken about Mouchon. She's a visionary too up front. So there's a lot of cheap, exciting visionaries to kind of keep an eye on this week. But yeah, those are my transfers.
Very bold to have already done them. I tend to wait till like Wednesday and then try and figure out, have I got the budget to do what I want to do? If yes, comfortably, then I might wait and see what the press conferences say. and do it Friday lunchtime or Saturday morning or something. But
before the Jess
yeah,
Park price rise, I just couldn't. I knew it was coming. I'm not playing roulette.
That's the thing. I put mine in earlier, and I think I'd then have like 0.3 million left, which isn't that much. But I've also got Tinker Tamberg at the moment. And obviously, she didn't start the weekend, so I'm wondering whether to take her out as well. Spurs have obviously got London City away this week, and then they've got Arsenal the following week. So they're two sort of more tough fixtures. Yeah, I see Jacob nodding along.
Yeah.
As soon as I said Arsenal was a fixture, I'm really glad you nodded there. Go on, Jacob. Anyone else that's picked your eye?
There is a couple of players that I wanted to mention. Yeah, before I did, I just wanted to have a bit of a humble brag, because if you listen to the review pod, not only did I take over Tom in the Know Your Stat leaderboard, but I also took over all of you in our fantasy league between the four of us. I'm now top of the fantasy league in the four of us. So yeah, just wanted to take a moment to mention that. But no, I think especially in weeks when there are games when the top four teams are playing each other, such as this week because it's Arsenal v Chelsea, I think it's important to look at players from some of the other teams, and I also had a look at visionaries. The players that I wanted to point out were a couple of Brighton players. So there are a couple of Brighton attackers like Kiko Saika and Carla Camacho, who are both visionary. Saika obviously a bit more expensive at 8 million, but Camacho's 4.5 million, especially if she's going to potentially start every week with Ajamang out injured. That could be quite a good pick. I think I'm gonna maybe get in Saika as one of my transfers, and I haven't figured out the second transfer. I also picked up on say, like Tom said, as being a visionary. Yeah, obviously she's kind of, West Ham haven't been performing, SA hasn't been performing, but we know how clinical she is, and ahead of two home fixtures, it could be good to bring her in and take a punt, especially with that visionary extra bonus potential points. But yeah, I think Brighton are kind of where I see the potential points from non-top four teams this week.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. And obviously those non-top four teams tend to be the better value, I guess, is the right way of wording it. Izzy, our sort of voice on the inside, what have you got for us?
Literally exactly the same that everyone else has just said. Part of me is slightly tempted by Olsen. I don't know. I'm marred slightly because when she joined the league, I was pricing her up. Obviously, I looked at sort of her stats from previous leagues that she's been in, and I just feel like there's so much untapped potential there. She's a visionary, and maybe Liverpool could kind of clinch something this weekend, and maybe they'll start being on the up. So if I feel like taking a risk, which I probably won't, I might bring her in. But currently, I think I might actually sell Beaver Jones and bring in either Seika or Mouchon, just because Beaver Jones has actually done not really anything fantasy wise for quite a while. I think she's an amazing player, but I was looking at her points today, and she's never got any bonus points, and obviously she hasn't scored a goal in a few games now. So I think I'll be taking her out and bringing in someone cheaper, so I can hoard some cash for a later date. But yeah, elsewhere, for me, I'm bringing in Jess Park and I'm putting captain's armband on her, like absolutely, without a doubt. I'd say if you've got the money as well, it's worth bringing in Ella Toon. But yeah, I think I'll be leaning slightly on the sort of visionaries. I'm going to try and balance it with sort of heavy duty United players, and then sprinkle a couple of visionaries in there if I can. But no one should listen to me because I'm fourth in our league, so I'm doing really badly this season.
Izzy, I feel like you just put in a formal request for Aggie Beaver Jones to score a hat trick against Arsenal.
I know. I know. Listen.
Why have you done this?
I know. At this point, I'm just, God, I don't know. To be fair, I'm going to Emirates on Saturday, and obviously I don't want Aggie Beaver-Jones to score a hat-trick, but I also really like Aggie Beaver-Jones. So, from a footballing perspective, would it be the worst thing? Yes, but also yes. No. But I do think, as well, London City, I know Izzy Goodwin isn't a visionary, but yeah, I know, Tom, you spoke about her, and something in me tells me she's going to score as well. So I think she could potentially be one to bring in and keep in ahead of the good fixtures. But yeah, as she's not a visionary, it might not be worth the price tag.
Yeah, I think London City are a team that I need to have a little bit more of a look at before I actually make my transfers, because they are. I've just had a look through their fixtures, and they, after this weekend, they don't play a team that are above them in the table until game week 13. They've got 4 games in a row against teams lower down in the table. It's, where are we? Villa, Brighton, Leicester, and Liverpool. So that is as good a run as you're going to get in the WSL, pretty much. So yeah, I may be having a look to them, but hopefully, listener, that is a good little preview of what's to come up this weekend, and hopefully something to take away for you on your fantasy team as well. Obviously, do get cracking on Aero Fantasy if you're not there already. It's never too late to join in the fun. And obviously, if you enjoyed today's episodes, do make sure to follow, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Follow at Decoding the WSL on Instagram. Check out the YouTube channel. Give us 5-star reviews. Anything that will make us smile, basically, do that. Be nice to us, and we'll keep giving you loads of content that you love. But yeah, that's all from us today, because it's nearly 11 o'clock and I need to get to my bed. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening or watching wherever you are, and we'll see you at the next one.